What if I told you that the very pain that has haunted you, the sorrow that has broken you, the wounds that never seem to heal could be the very soil where your freedom grows? My friends, we have all carried pain. Some of us wear it in silence, tucked behind smiles so wide they fool the world. Some of us drag it in public, visible, raw, unhidden. Pain is no stranger. It visits every home, every heart, and every soul. But I stand here to tell you, pain does not have the right to be your master. And if you dare to stay with me through these words, I promise you will walk away not with answers that merely soothe, but with a principle so eternal, so freeing, that it can break the cycle of emotional pain you thought was unbreakable. There is a sacred truth that many try to avoid, yet it is the very doorway to freedom. You cannot heal what you will not face. Pain, when ignored, does not dissolve into the air. It does not evaporate like morning mist. Pain, when buried, becomes heavier, sharper, and more demanding. It lives in the body, it lingers in the heart, and it whispers through the mind until you finally turn and face it. Too many of us walk through life wearing masks so carefully crafted that no one can see the trembling inside. We smile so brightly, the world believes we are fine, but deep within we know the truth. We are carrying wounds that have not been named. We are carrying heartbreaks that were never spoken aloud. And because of that silence, because of that refusal to acknowledge what is real, the pain continues to cycle, feeding on itself, growing stronger with every denial. The first step to breaking this cycle is the step most people resist: acknowledgement. To say, yes, I am hurt. To say, yes, I carry sorrow. To admit that something has broken me, that I have walked through fire and the flames have left marks upon my soul. Many people mistake acknowledgement for weakness. They think to name their pain is to be swallowed by it. But acknowledgement is not surrender. It is courage. It is to look into the mirror of your own soul and refuse to turn away. It is to say, I see you, wound. I see you, scar. I see you, pain. And though you are here, you will not own me. When we pretend the wound does not exist, it festers. It does not fade, it grows. Silence is the fertile soil of suffering. How many lives are dimmed because people keep saying, I'm fine, when their spirit is crying for help? How many families pass pain from generation to generation because no one dares to speak the truth of what happened? No one dares to acknowledge the fracture. When acknowledgement is absent, pain is passed down like an inheritance. Children grow up carrying burdens that were not theirs to carry because their parents or their grandparents never faced their own. Cycles repeat, histories echo, and what could have been healed becomes a chain around the neck of the future. Acknowledgement is an act of honesty, and honesty is always the beginning of healing. When you dare to speak your truth, even if no one else hears it, you open the door for transformation. Acknowledgement does not mean dwelling in sorrow. It means taking the power back from denial. It is the moment you stop running. It is the moment you stop hiding. You look at the wound and say, this happened, this hurt me, this broke me, but this will not define me. Think of a child who falls and scrapes their knee. If they cover it with dirt, if they hide it under clothing and never clean it, the wound becomes infected. But if the wound is washed, if it is acknowledged as real and tended to with care, it begins to heal. Adults are no different. Our emotional wounds demand acknowledgement, or they will poison our lives. Denial is the dirt that keeps the infection alive. And let us be clear, acknowledgement is not easy. It is not easy to sit with the pain you have avoided for years. It is not easy to open the box you sealed long ago. But what is harder is carrying that hidden box every day of your life. What is harder is waking up decades later still chained to something that could have been faced, something that could have been healed If only you had dared to say, "This hurt me." There is dignity in truth-telling. There is strength in naming what is real. Acknowledgement is the first declaration of freedom. It is the act of saying, "I am not afraid to see myself as I am." And when you say that, the cycle of pain begins to lose its grip. It is saying, "I know what happened to me, but I also know who I am beyond what happened." You no longer live in the shadow of denial. You stand in the light of truth. And do not mistake me, acknowledgement does not require you to broadcast your pain to the world. It does not mean shouting your wounds from every rooftop. It means that in the quiet of your own heart, you stop lying to yourself. It means in the presence of trusted souls, you allow yourself to be seen. It means you dare to take off the mask, if only for a moment to breathe the air of honesty. The cycle of emotional pain is a circle that feeds on denial, shame, and silence. To acknowledge is to put your foot down and break that circle. To acknowledge is to declare, "This is where the cycle ends. It will not define me. It will not define my children. It will not define the generations that come after me." Acknowledgement is the first step. It is not the last step, but without it, no other steps are possible. Without acknowledgement, forgiveness cannot take root. Without acknowledgement, purpose cannot be birthed. Without acknowledgement, peace cannot be claimed. It all begins with one brave choice: to face the truth of your pain and to name it, not as your identity, but as your history. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood acts of the human heart. People often think forgiveness means excusing what was done, pretending it never happened, or inviting the one who hurt us to wound us again. But forgiveness is not about erasing the past. Forgiveness is about unshackling the soul. It is about saying, "What happened is real, it was wrong, and yet I refuse to let it chain me to a lifetime of suffering." Forgiveness is not weakness. Forgiveness is power. The kind of power that frees you from being forever defined by the cruelty of another. Unforgiveness is a weight that lives in the bones. It stiffens the spirit. It poisons the joy of the present moment. It ties your future to your past like a prisoner bound to a wall. Have you ever seen someone who cannot let go of bitterness? Their face shows it. Their walk shows it. Their voice carries the sharpness of wounds never released. And sometimes we don't even realize we are carrying that weight until it has stolen years of our peace. Bitterness is a cycle. You replay the offense, you rehearse the pain, you recite the wrongs, and each time you do, the wound reopens. Your body tenses as if it is happening again. Your mind becomes the prison guard of your own suffering. Forgiveness interrupts that cycle. Forgiveness says, "I will not relive this moment every day of my life. I will not drink the poison of resentment and call it strength." Forgiveness is not saying, "It didn't matter." Forgiveness is saying, "It mattered deeply, but it will not hold me hostage." It is not the denial of pain. It is the release of pain's authority. Too many of us are waiting for the person who wronged us to apologize, to change, to recognize what they did. But forgiveness is not for them. Forgiveness is for you. If you wait for their apology to set you free, you may wait your whole life bound to a chain that only your own heart can unlock. Think of carrying a heavy stone in your hand everywhere you go. Every day you grip it tighter, refusing to let it go because the person who threw the stone at you never said they were sorry. And so you punish yourself by clutching it day after day. Your hand cramps, your muscles ache, your spirit grows weary, but still you hold on. Forgiveness is not pretending the stone was never thrown. Forgiveness is dropping the stone so you can walk freely again. There is courage in forgiveness. It takes far more strength to forgive than to hate. Hatred feels powerful in the beginning. It feels like justice, it feels like protection, but hatred burns through you until you are left hollow. Forgiveness, however, builds you. Forgiveness says, "You may have harmed me, but you did not destroy me. You may have tried to break me, but here I stand, whole enough to release you from my spirit." That is the fierce beauty of forgiveness. Forgiveness is not about reconciliation. Sometimes reconciliation is not possible. Sometimes it is not safe. Sometimes it is not wise. Forgiveness does not mean you must invite everyone who hurt you back into your life. Forgiveness simply means you refuse to let them occupy your mind and your heart any longer. You refuse to let their shadow dictate your sunlight. Some will say, "But they do not deserve forgiveness." And perhaps that is true. But forgiveness is not about deserving. It is about preserving. Preserving your peace, preserving your joy, preserving your future. Forgiveness is not for the offender's sake. It is for yours. When you forgive, you refuse to be a character forever trapped in someone else's story. You pick up the pen and begin to write your own. There are people who carry unforgiveness for decades. They go to their graves still holding the names of those who wronged them like a bitter prayer on their lips, and in doing so, they let their oppressors win twice, once in the act of harm and once in the refusal to heal. Forgiveness is saying, "You will not win twice. You may have wounded me, but you will not keep me bound forever." When you forgive, you create space for joy to return. You create room for love to grow. You open the door for peace to dwell where anger once lived. Forgiveness is not about forgetting. It is about remembering without bleeding. It is about being able to tell the story without reliving the pain. Imagine chains around your ankles that have kept you from running, from soaring, from dancing. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks them. Forgiveness says, "I choose freedom over bondage. I choose life over bitterness. I choose my future over my past." Do not mistake this act as simple. Forgiveness is work. Forgiveness is process. Sometimes you have to forgive again and again, every morning you wake, until the heart is truly free. Sometimes you forgive in layers, peeling back the pain slowly until the wound no longer aches. But each act of forgiveness loosens the grip of resentment and tightens your hold on peace. When you forgive, you become more powerful than the one who hurt you. You prove that they could wound your body, they could wound your trust, they could wound your heart, but they could not wound your spirit beyond repair. Forgiveness declares, "I am stronger than what happened to me. I am stronger than the cruelty I endured. I am strong enough to release it and walk into my destiny unburdened." And let us not forget, forgiveness is also an act of self-compassion. It is not only others we must forgive. Sometimes the heaviest chains we carry are the ones we've fastened on ourselves. We replay our mistakes, our failures, our regrets, and we punish ourselves for not knowing better, for not being stronger, for not choosing differently. Forgiving yourself is the soil where growth blooms. To forgive yourself is to whisper to your own soul, "I will not keep crucifying you for mistakes already made. I will allow you to grow beyond them." Forgiveness is liberation. Liberation from the past, liberation from bitterness, liberation from the endless cycle of pain. It is the act of declaring that no person, no act, no wound will have the final word on your life. There comes a moment when the very thing that once broke you can become the very thing that builds you. Pain is never just an interruption in our lives. It is a teacher, a refiner, a sculptor, shaping us into something we never thought possible. Too often we see pain only as punishment. We see it as evidence that life has conspired against us. But pain, when transformed, can become the greatest source of strength. It can be the birthplace of purpose. Think of the seed. Buried beneath the soil, it is pressed into darkness, surrounded by weight, trapped in silence. For the seed to grow, it must crack open. It must be broken. And in that breaking, the miracle begins. The shell that once protected it cannot remain because it is too small to contain the life inside. So it splits, it shatters, and from the breaking emerges new life. So it is with us. Pain breaks us open, but in that breaking, something greater is born. The danger comes when we allow pain to convince us that breaking is the end of the story. Many of us stop there. We believe the wound is all that will ever define us. We build our identity around suffering, and we carry it like a crown of thorns. But breaking is not the end. Breaking is the beginning. Pain is not a tomb, it is a womb. Out of the deepest sorrow can come the richest purpose if you dare to let it. There are those who have endured betrayals, abandonment, loss so heavy it seemed impossible to stand again. And yet, some of those very people rise from the ashes not only with scars, but with vision. They become voices of healing, hands of service, guides to those still trapped in the fire. Why? Because they chose not to let pain be wasted. They chose to transform it into purpose. They chose to say, if I had to walk through the fire, let me at least bring light to someone else still burning. There is no wasted pain if you are willing to learn from it. There is no wound so deep that it cannot water the soil of your destiny. Pain shows you what matters. Pain strips away illusions. Pain reveals strength you never imagined you had. And once you know what it is to be broken and still rise, you carry a power no one can take from you. The world has been shaped by those who turned pain into purpose. The leaders, the healers, the dreamers, they were not people who lived untouched lives. They were people who took the bitterness of their suffering and distilled it into wisdom. They took the tears that fell in the midnight hour and used them to cleanse the eyes of others. They took their silence, once forced upon them, and turned it into songs that moved generations. Pain became their teacher, and purpose became their legacy. But you must choose it. You must choose to refuse the easy road of bitterness. You must refuse to believe that pain is only destruction. Pain offers you a choice: to remain a victim of it or to become a vessel of transformation because of it. That choice is made in the quiet hours when no one is watching. That choice is made when you stand at the crossroads of despair and hope and decide, I will not waste what I have endured. I will find a way to make meaning from this. Do not underestimate the value of your story. What you have endured may be the very lifeline someone else needs. The lessons you have learned through heartbreak may become the wisdom that guides another out of darkness. The empathy you now carry because of your wounds may be the hand that lifts someone else when they cannot lift themselves. Your pain can give birth to compassion. Your pain can give birth to purpose. And purpose does not have to be grand to be powerful. It does not have to be a stage, a microphone, or a movement. Sometimes purpose is simply the ability to sit with someone in their suffering because you have walked that road yourself. Sometimes purpose is raising your children with the tenderness you never received. Sometimes purpose is creating beauty in a world that once showed you only ugliness. Purpose is not measured by the size of its audience, but by the depth of its impact. And pain, when transformed, ensures that your impact is real, raw, and lasting. The question is not whether you will suffer in this life, because suffering visits every soul. The question is what you will do with that suffering. Will you allow it to shrink you, to harden you, to make you bitter and small? Or will you allow it to expand you, to soften you, to deepen your understanding of what it means to live and love? There is gold hidden in the ashes if you dare to look. There is wisdom buried in the wound if you dare to dig. Pain has the power to refine you like fire refines metal, burning away the impurities, leaving only what is pure and strong. And once you have walked through that fire, you will discover that your purpose is not an accident. Your purpose is birthed from the very things you thought would destroy you. So many people spend their lives running from pain, trying to numb it, trying to silence it. But purpose is not found in denial. Purpose is found in transformation. You must face the wound, embrace its lesson, and then lift your head high and say, "This will not end with me broken. This will end with me rising. This will end with me becoming someone who carries light into the darkness of others." There will come a time when you look back on the things that once made you weep and realize they have become the very foundation of your strength. The nights you thought would kill you became the nights that carved wisdom into your soul. The heartbreaks you thought you could never recover from became the lessons that taught you how to truly love. The losses you thought would empty you became the spaces where new life could enter. Turning pain into purpose is not pretending you wanted the pain. It is declaring that since it came, it will not be wasted. It is choosing to rise from the breaking, to grow from the wound, to shine from the scar. And when you do, you become a testament to the power of transformation. You become proof that even the darkest nights can give birth to the brightest dawns. There is a natural instinct in every human heart when pain strikes. We want to react. We want to lash out, to defend ourselves, to strike back with words sharper than knives, with actions fueled by fury. When betrayal cuts, the impulse is to betray back. When insult burns, the impulse is to retaliate. It feels as though stillness is weakness, as though silence is surrender. But reaction is the language of the wound. Reaction does not heal, it multiplies. Each time we answer pain with pain, we feed the cycle that binds us. We become part of the very thing we despise. And so there is another way, a higher way, stillness. Stillness is not passivity. Stillness is not cowardice. Stillness is power under control. It is the decision to step back from the fire instead of fueling it. It is the wisdom to pause before speaking, the strength to breathe before acting. Stillness is the sacred space where reaction dies and clarity is born. It is the place where you hear the truth that noise tries to drown. The world around us teaches us to move fast, speak fast, defend ourselves immediately, never let anyone get the last word. But healing does not live in haste. Wisdom is not born in frenzy. When you are still, you allow your soul to speak louder than your wounds. You give space for your spirit to rise above your hurt. You take back control from the one who tried to control you. Reaction often feels good in the moment. It feels like justice, like strength, like power. But how many times have we reacted and regretted it? How many times have we spoken words in anger only to realize we cannot take them back? How many times have we made choices in rage that built more pain instead of peace? Reaction satisfies the wound for a moment, but it punishes the soul for years. Stillness, though hard in the moment, gives you the victory of wisdom, the triumph of peace. Think of water. When it is disturbed, it ripples wildly, it reflects nothing clearly, but when it is still, it becomes a mirror. In stillness, you see truth. In stillness, you see yourself. In stillness, you see the path that pain tries to hide. Stillness is not the absence of power. It is the discipline of power. It is the ability to say, I will not be moved by impulse. I will be moved by vision. Stillness does not mean doing nothing. Stillness is an action of the highest order. It is the deliberate act of choosing peace over chaos. It is the conscious decision to rise above what was meant to pull you down. Stillness is the refusal to let anger dictate your story. It is saying, you may have wounded me, but you will not control my response. You may have insulted me, but you will not steal my dignity. Stillness is strength clothed in silence. Some people think they win by provoking you. They believe that if they can spark your anger, if they can push you to react, they have power over you. But when you are still, you show them the truth. Their power ends where your peace begins. They cannot control you unless you allow them to. Stillness is a shield that protects you from becoming like those who hurt you. There are battles not worth fighting, words not worth answering, insults not worth carrying. Stillness teaches you the wisdom of discernment. It whispers, not every action requires your energy. Not every voice deserves your reply. Not every attack deserves your retaliation. Sometimes the greatest strength is in walking away, in letting silence do the talking, in letting time reveal what your anger never could. Pain pushes you to immediate action because it does not want you to think. Pain wants you to be reckless, to be reactionary, to stay trapped in cycles of conflict. But stillness interrupts the momentum of pain. Stillness says, I will not act until I have seen the truth. I will not speak until my words bring light, not more darkness. Stillness disarms the cycle. It removes the fuel from the fire. There is also healing in stillness. When you are still, you give your heart time to process. You give your soul time to breathe. You allow yourself to sit with the wound without immediately projecting it onto the world. Stillness creates space for grace. It is in stillness that forgiveness finds room to grow. It is in stillness that wisdom whispers the next step. It is in stillness that you discover strength you did not know you carried. Think of storms. The winds rage, the thunder rolls, the lightning strikes, but above it all, in the sky beyond the clouds, there is stillness. The storm cannot reach the higher air, and so it is with your spirit. Pain creates storms in your life, but if you rise high enough, if you live in the stillness above the storm, you discover that peace is always available. Stillness lifts you higher than chaos can climb. And let us be clear, stillness does not mean suppressing your emotions. Stillness does not mean pretending you are not angry, not hurt, not disappointed. Stillness means honoring those emotions without letting them control you. It means feeling the fire without letting it burn your life to the ground. It means recognizing the storm without becoming the storm. There is incredible dignity in restraint. There is immeasurable strength in choosing not to retaliate. Anyone can react, anyone can lash out, but it takes vision to remain calm. It takes discipline to remain still, and in that stillness you discover a freedom greater than revenge could ever offer. You discover peace that reaction can never give. Stillness is the soil where wisdom grows. Stillness is the womb where healing begins. Stillness is the ground where purpose takes root. Without stillness, you live your life at the mercy of pain, forever reacting, forever enslaved to your wounds. With stillness, you live from a place of authority, choosing your path instead of being dragged by it. The cycle of emotional pain thrives on reaction. It feeds on quick anger, impulsive words, destructive choices. But when you choose stillness, you starve the cycle. You break its rhythm. You say, this ends here. I will not answer pain with pain. I will choose peace. I will choose clarity. I will choose to rise above. There is a truth many spend their entire lives running from. You cannot truly heal until you learn to love yourself. And yet, loving yourself is often the very thing people resist the most. We have been taught to give, to sacrifice, to pour ourselves out for others while leaving our own souls starving. We have been told that self-love is arrogance, that it is selfishness, that it is pride. But nothing could be further from the truth. To love yourself is not vanity. To love yourself is sanity. It is the sacred recognition that you were created with worth, that your existence is no accident, and that your healing begins with the way you treat your own heart. How many of us have tried to heal while still despising ourselves? How many of us have tried to move forward while still believing we were unworthy of joy? You cannot rise while holding yourself down. You cannot embrace peace while speaking destruction to your own soul. Healing begins when you declare, I am worthy, I am valuable, I am deserving of wholeness. Those words may feel foreign at first, even uncomfortable, but they are the medicine your spirit has longed for. Loving yourself does not mean ignoring your flaws. It means seeing them clearly and choosing compassion over condemnation. It means saying, yes, I have made mistakes, but I am not my mistakes. Yes, I have scars, but I am more than what wounded me. Yes, I have stumbled, but I am still worthy of standing tall. Self-love is not the absence of honesty. It is the presence of grace. It is the gentle voice that whispers to you, you can grow, you can heal, you can be more. When you do not love yourself, you give pain permission to reign. You allow the voices of rejection, abandonment, and criticism to shape your identity. You accept less than you deserve, you tolerate what breaks you, you remain in places and with people that strip you of dignity. But when you love yourself, you raise the standard. You refuse to settle for what diminishes your spirit. You understand that you are not here to simply survive, you are here to live fully. Think of the body. When it is wounded, it instinctively begins to heal itself. The blood clots, the skin knits, the cells regenerate. The body fights for wholeness because it was designed to, and so is the soul. But if you despise yourself, you block that natural flow of healing. If you do not believe you are worth the effort, the wounds remain open. Love is what activates the healing. Love is what tells the soul, it is safe now. You are cared for. You can let go of the pain. So many of us have been taught to extend compassion to everyone but ourselves. We sit with others in their suffering. We speak encouragement into their lives. We tell them they are worthy of healing. But when it comes to our own reflection, we are merciless. We punish ourselves for the past. We criticize every flaw. We convince ourselves that kindness is for others, but not for us. That is not healing. That is bondage. And bondage cannot break until love enters. Loving yourself enough to heal means rewriting the story you tell yourself. It means silencing the voice that says you are not enough and replacing it with the truth that says you are more than enough. It means catching the lies that whisper you will never change and answering with, I am already becoming new. It means forgiving yourself for the choices you made when you did not know better, for the times you abandoned your own worth, for the days you believed the lies of others. Forgiveness of self is the soil where self-love grows. Do not wait for the world to validate you before you love yourself. If you wait for others to crown you worthy, you may wait forever. Worth is not given by applause. Worth is not given by acceptance. Worth is not given by approval. Worth is already yours because you exist. The Creator placed value in you the moment you took your first breath. Loving yourself is simply agreeing with what was already true. And let us be clear, self-love is not indulgence. It is not ignoring growth or avoiding responsibility. Self-love is discipline. It is treating your body with care, your mind with respect, your spirit with reverence. It is choosing what nourishes you rather than what destroys you. It is setting boundaries not to keep love out, but to protect your heart so that love can grow within. It is resting when you are tired, speaking gently to yourself when you fall, and choosing to rise again even when shame tells you to stay down. Loving yourself enough to heal means refusing to carry everyone else's opinion as truth. People may have told you that you were not enough. They may have treated you as if you were disposable, but their actions are not your identity. Their rejection does not rewrite your worth. Self-love says, I will not measure myself by someone else's blindness. I will not define myself by someone else's cruelty. I will hold fast to the truth that I am valuable, even when others fail to see it. Healing requires that you become your own ally, that you cheer for yourself, that you support your own growth, that you believe in your own possibility. For too long, many of us have been our own enemy. We have been harsher with ourselves than anyone else ever could be. But the moment you turn inward with love, you begin to heal. The moment you embrace yourself as worthy, the cycle of pain begins to break. Love is the balm that softens the scar. Love is the light that guides you out of the shadows. Love is the foundation upon which healing stands. Without love, wounds remain wounds. With love, wounds become wisdom. With love, scars become stories of survival. With love, your broken places become bridges to a stronger version of you. And so, to love yourself enough to heal is to finally look in the mirror and see not the mistakes, not the wounds, not the flaws, but the miracle that you are still here, still breathing, still capable of becoming whole. It is to stand in the truth that you are not defined by what broke you, but by the love that is strong enough to rebuild you. There is a myth many of us carry quietly in our hearts. The belief that we must heal alone, that strength is measured by how much we can endure without anyone else's hand to hold. We tell ourselves that to need others is weakness, that to lean on another is to reveal failure. But the truth is the opposite. Isolation keeps wounds raw. Silence keeps pain alive. Healing is not only a personal journey, it is also a collective one. We do not heal in separation, we heal in connection. Pain wants you alone. Pain thrives in the dark corners where your voice is silenced and your soul trembles in secrecy. It tells you, no one will understand, no one will care. If you speak, you will be rejected. If you reach, you will be dropped. Pain knows that as long as you remain hidden, it can keep its power. But connection exposes pain. Connection says, I see you, I hear you, you are not alone. And the moment you feel seen, the grip of pain begins to loosen. There is unspeakable power in community. One voice may tremble under the weight of sorrow, but when voices gather, they create harmony that lifts even the heaviest heart. One hand may falter under the burden of grief, but when many hands join, the weight becomes bearable. Human beings were not designed to walk through valleys alone. We were made for relationship, for shared strength, for the kind of love that says, if you cannot carry it today, I will carry it with you. Think of the wounded soldier on the battlefield. He cannot rise, his body is too broken. If he stays alone, he will not survive. But when his brothers lift him, when they refuse to leave him behind, he finds his way to safety. So it is with our emotional wounds. There are times when we cannot rise by ourselves, when our strength has run dry. And in those moments, connection saves us. The presence of another becomes the bridge between despair and hope. Many of us resist community because we fear vulnerability. We are terrified of being seen in our brokenness. We wear masks of competence, of confidence, of perfection, hoping no one will notice the cracks beneath. But true healing requires honesty, and honesty is born in safe connection. When you dare to reveal your truth in the presence of another, when you strip off the mask and allow your scars to breathe in the open air, shame begins to wither. For shame cannot survive being spoken, and pain cannot survive being shared. Community is not about having a crowd around you. It is about having a circle of souls who hold you when you fall, who speak life when you forget your own worth, who remind you that your story matters. Connection is not about numbers, it is about depth. You may have thousands of acquaintances and still feel utterly alone, but one heart that truly listens, one soul that truly understands, can shift the entire trajectory of your healing. There is something sacred in hearing someone say, "Me too." Two simple words, yet they carry the power to dismantle loneliness. When you realize that your pain is not unique to you, when you realize that others have walked through similar valleys and still risen, hope stirs. Their survival becomes proof of your possibility. Their strength becomes the echo of your own. Healing in community also means giving as much as receiving. It is not only about finding someone to hold you, but about becoming someone who holds. When you share your story, when you allow your wounds to become wisdom, you become a lantern for others lost in the dark. Your voice becomes the bridge that carries another from despair to resilience. And in lifting another, you find yourself lifted. Connection is reciprocal. Healing flows in both directions. There are times when solitude is necessary, when you must sit quietly with your own soul. But solitude is not the same as isolation. Solitude is chosen. Isolation is imposed by fear. Solitude refuels. Isolation drains. The danger lies in believing you can live entirely cut off, refusing the gift of others. You may survive that way, but you will not thrive. Healing is richest when shared. Consider the way a broken bone heals. Doctors align it, cast it, protect it. But often, the bone grows back stronger at the place where it broke. In the same way, when people come together, when they align each other with truth, when they protect one another with compassion, the places where we once broke can become the places where we are strongest. That is the power of community. The cycle of pain shrinks when connection expands. The weight of sorrow lessens when it is carried by many. The sting of betrayal softens when someone looks into your eyes and says, "I will not leave you." Healing becomes possible because love is present, and love is strongest when it is shared. Do not let pride keep you from connection. Do not let fear silence your voice. Somewhere in this world, there is a soul who needs your story, just as you need theirs. Somewhere, someone's healing is tied to your willingness to be honest. Somewhere, someone is waiting to remind you of your worth, to call you back to life when you forget who you are. But they cannot find you if you remain hidden. We are not here to walk alone. We are here to lift and be lifted, to love and be loved, to heal and be healed together. When you open your heart to community, when you allow yourself to connect, you declare to pain, "You will not isolate me. You will not silence me. I will find my circle. I will be part of the great chain of healing that runs through humanity." And in that chain, in that sacred circle of connection, you discover a truth deeper than pain. You were never alone. You are not alone, and you will never be alone. There comes a point in every journey of pain when the weight becomes too heavy for human hands. We try to fix ourselves with logic, with discipline, with determination. We tell ourselves, if we can just work harder, think better, try longer, the ache will vanish. But the cycle of emotional pain cannot always be broken by sheer human will. There is a deeper principle at play, one that asks us not to grip tighter, but to release. It is the principle of surrender, not defeat, but surrender to something greater, something higher, something infinite. Surrender is not weakness. It is not giving up. It is laying down the illusion that we are the sole architects of our healing, that we must carry our burdens alone. There is a river larger than us, a wisdom deeper than ours, a presence beyond our comprehension. To surrender is to place your pain in the hands of that presence, to say, "I cannot carry this, but I believe you can." The human heart was not made to bear endless grief without relief. We need a place to set it down. And when we surrender to a higher power, whether you name it God, Spirit, universe, or simply the great mystery, we find rest. The very act of releasing our pain becomes the doorway to peace. You see, as long as we cling to our suffering, as long as we try to control every outcome, we remain trapped. But surrender loosens the chains. Surrender whispers, you don't have to know how this will end. You don't have to see the whole road. Just trust the one who does. Many of us resist surrender because we have been taught that strength is control. We think, if I let go, everything will fall apart. But often things fall apart precisely because we refuse to let go. Like a child clutching broken glass, we cut ourselves again and again because we are afraid to release it. But the higher power we resist is not waiting to hurt us. It is waiting to heal us. The act of surrender is not falling into emptiness. It is falling into the arms of love. Think of a raging storm at sea. The sailor cannot calm the winds or command the waves, but he can adjust his sails. He can trust the current. He can surrender to the ocean's rhythm and allow it to carry him to shore. So it is with life. We cannot control every storm, but we can surrender to the one who holds the sea itself. When we stop fighting against what is beyond our power and yield to what is greater, we discover a strength that was never ours, but has always been available to us. There is freedom in surrender, freedom from the endless cycle of why me, freedom from the heavy demand of solving every wound, freedom from the exhausting need to understand everything. When you surrender, you open your heart to grace, to guidance, to peace that surpasses your own reasoning. The pain does not always vanish in an instant, but it no longer owns you. It becomes something carried for you, something transformed beyond you. Surrender is not passive. It is active trust. It is choosing to believe in the unseen when the seen is unbearable. It is choosing to place faith in the invisible hands that have held generations before you. It is choosing to step back from the fight and say, I release this. I trust that what I cannot do, a higher power can. That choice shifts the soul. It moves you from struggle into flow, from despair into hope. Some of the most powerful healings in human history began not with striving, but with surrender. The addict who finally whispers, I cannot do this alone. The grieving parent who finally lifts their tears and says, God, take this pain. The brokenhearted who finally kneels and admits, I release control. In those moments of surrender, a doorway opens and strength flows in where weakness once ruled. That is not coincidence. That is divine intervention. We live in a culture that worships independence, but surrender reminds us that we are not independent of the source that gave us life. We are connected, tethered, held. Just as a tree does not grow without sunlight, just as a river does not flow without rain, we do not heal without the touch of the higher power that sustains all things. To surrender is to realign yourself with that truth, to reconnect with the lifeline you forgot you had. When you surrender, you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what can this teach me? How can this transform me? Because you trust that the higher power wastes nothing. Every tear becomes a seed. Every wound becomes a doorway. Every ending becomes a beginning. Surrender gives meaning to pain because it places it in the hands of one who knows how to turn ashes into beauty. Do not mistake surrender for silence. Surrender does not mean you do not cry or question or wrestle. It means that after the tears and after the questions, you place your pain down and say, even in my confusion, I trust. It means that even when you cannot see the way forward, you trust that there is one who can. It means that even when you feel utterly powerless, you remember that power is not the absence of weakness, but the presence of faith. There is a deep rest that only surrender brings. When you finally stop carrying what was never yours to carry, your shoulders loosen, your chest opens, your spirit breathes again. You begin to realize that your life was never meant to be lived entirely by your strength. That is why surrender is not defeat. It is alignment. It is the act of joining your finite humanity to infinite divinity. And when you surrender, when you trust the higher power with your wounds, you discover that healing does not just touch the surface, it reaches the soul. Pain becomes lighter, not because it disappears, but because it is shared with the one who can hold it all. Fear shrinks, not because danger vanishes, but because love surrounds you. And the cycle of emotional pain is broken, not because life becomes easy, but because you have placed your trust in the power that transcends all pain. So hear me now. Your pain is not your identity. It is not your prison. The spiritual principle that breaks the cycle is forgiveness, love, connection, and surrender. It is daring to believe that your wounds can become wisdom, your sorrow can birth strength, and your scars can sing songs of freedom. Stand tall, my friend. Do not bow to the cycle of pain. Break it, live beyond it, and walk as the living testimony that even in the shadow of suffering, light finds a way to rise.